Hey there, everybody. Franklin Taggart here, and it is time for a virtual coffee break. Here is my coffee. Grab your coffee or beverage of choice. Let's sit down and have a chat, shall we? Oh, man. Well, yeah, on second thought, I will have some. Still good. Let's see, where are we today? Okay, so today was a great day. I had 5 incredible conversations with people. It's one of the best ways to spend time as far as I'm concerned. And each one of the conversations had lively points of its own. Recorded a fun podcast episode that'll be coming up sometime in the next week or two. And also just had some really good in-depth conversations with people. One of the things that really struck me in one of the conversations, we were talking about that for a lot of people, by the way, if you've watched my TikTok video for today, you've already been spoiled. But we were talking in our conversation today about how for many people, the beginning of a spiritual awakening experience for a lot of folks is when they start to take their own dreams seriously and when they start to really kind of carve their own path instead of following the directions and paths of others. And it really struck me that is one of the things that I've come to believe pretty strongly in the last, particularly in the last 10 years for myself, but in the last 20, I've definitely seen this pattern. Most of the time when we think about spiritual awakening, we think about things like meditation and yoga and spiritual practice and having a guru and going on all kinds of adventurous trips to India and Machu Picchu and all of these different things. Well, for some people, that is a part of the journey. But it's really the thing that I've learned myself and the thing that I've seen in many other people is that the spiritual awakening experience really starts with something like starting a business and failing, or trying a career path that is based on your passion and interests and running into brick wall after brick wall after brick wall. And there are some thoughts that I have around why that is. I think that spiritual awakening just simply is a process of, I don't even want to call it transcending. It's a process of becoming acquainted with your own ego and finding its limitations and exceeding those in some way, shape, or form. Now, I'm not going to claim to be awakened. I've had a lot of really amazing experiences, but I don't think that qualifies as anything other than just experiences. And I don't feel like that I'm particularly an enlightened being, or anything close to it. So take everything that I have to say about this with a grain of salt. I'm only kind of reporting on some things that I've observed within my own experience and with the experience of others. But one of the things that I think is happening in an awakening experience is that the ego is being seen through. It's being discovered as nothing but a construct. A construct, somehow or another that we have made and upheld and created and all of that stuff. But it's still nothing more than just a construct that we have in our mind about who we are. And we guard that construct. It's a part of our, survival mechanism. And yet, one of the things that happens is that when ego is the thing that we put in charge of our lives and of our decisions and things like that, we have a tendency to suffer. And I think, there are a few ways that ego presents itself. One of them is in terms of self-importance, certainly. But also there are certain people that their ego, shows up as not worth anything kind of an entity, where it's like the mileage that they get is in not being worthy or worthwhile. And sometimes the ego can show up as just being helpful at a person's own expense all of the time. Sometimes it's just a constant need for approval, and sometimes it's a need for absolute control and authority and domination. It's a wily little booger. And the thing that's really interesting is that this wily little booger is just nothing but a construct that we've built in order to, ensure our own survival. It's built into the mechanism somehow. But the spiritual awakening that we talk about, I think, is when we realize that this is the truth, that the ego really doesn't have any existence in any kind of objective reality, that it is just a construct that we have created so that we can further our own survival. Well, what better place is there for that to emerge than in a situation where you follow your own heart in a direction that you want to go? Like for me, it was being a musician. It was like so much of my identity and so much of what I considered special about myself was wrapped up in that idea that I am a musician. And when that was gone, when that was taken from me through illness and other things, I had no idea who I was. Well, that was the beginning for me of an understanding and awakening that is still, as far as I'm concerned, still happening. But the other thing that I would look at in my own experience is that the idea that I could start my own business, the idea that I could have my own ideas, the idea that I could have my own, impact on the world, and it be a meaningful impact that really matters to a certain segment of people. Well, think about that too. It's like there's a certain level of self-importance that drives that kind of activity. And so for me, the whole idea of the businesses that I've started out as pretty egocentric kinds of enterprises. And whenever that is the case, I believe that that's when we reach our natural limits and we are not in a position to do anything except surrender. And I'm not talking surrender about, I'm not talking about a kind of surrender where it's, my ego is submitted to a master or anything like that. It's just the fact that life has you backed into a corner and your ego has no idea what to do next, how to do anything, right? And so naturally there is just this inclination to release the need for control, to release the need for approval, to release, all of those things that we count on for being important to our survival. We really see through it and understand that we don't need those things at all. They're not important. Maybe they were important when we were younger. Maybe they were important even last week or this morning. But when we get to the point where we realize that that's what we've been striving for, and we let go of the striving, and there's a surrender that happens, all of a sudden, there's a new experience of life that is somewhat more expanded than the life that we'd been living with the ego in control. So those are some thoughts that I have about the spiritual awakening that can happen as a part of following your own path or starting your own business or creating your own project. I really feel like that's just as legitimate a direction for spiritual awakening as any other that you'll find. So those are my thoughts on the matter. I just was struck. We were in a conversation, and I thought that, you know what? It sounds like to me that there's a spiritual awakening that's starting to unfold here. And that was it. It was like, oh, okay, yeah. All of those business things that have been going on up until now, yeah, you've just been kind of getting ready. It's all good. So those are the thoughts that I have about it. If you have any thoughts about it yourself and like to talk about it, get in touch with me. bit.ly/best next step call. It's a free coaching session where we can talk through the circumstances that you're in and what next step makes the best sense for where you are. So that's all I've got to say about that today, folks. Thank you, as always, for your time and your attention, and I'll be back again with yet another coffee break tomorrow. So long.